will give my first win of the week to Austin Dillon. He did what Dale would have done at that point. I think Dale would have done the same thing, to be brutally honest.
I still don't think he would have dove in 5 car lengths deep to wipe a guy out.
Mason, you're looking at it all wrong.
I mean, when he dumped Terry
He just
Labonte, he was
rattled
out.
his cage. He meant to rattle his cage a bit.
Well, at least
Not
when he
dumpable.
dumped Terry, he was right on his back bumper, not like 5 country
Different
miles
track.
behind him. Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 21 of season 3. We're coming off another fun weekend of racing, and who knows what shenanigans we got in store for this episode with myself, Mason, and the Pelkeys, Becca, and Jessup. John will be joining eventually. He's getting a haircut, which what I wanted to ask him is he
Which
getting
one?
yeah, let's say, is it a single hair that's getting cut, or like I don't know exactly what a haircut looks like for him.
Does he get like a discount?
I don't know. That's a great question, but apparently it's a whole ordeal. Anyways, how are you doing, Jessup?
I'm doing very well, Mason. How are you?
I'm doing great. Having a great week. I get to work from home all week, so I'm getting a lot of stuff done around the apartment.
Lucky. I have to go back to work this week and continue to educate the youth of America. For I am a role model in my own mind.
There we go. Miss Becca, how are you doing? Great. That is awesome to hear. You and my cat are very similar. Anyways, as we get into our episode, we have to thank our presenting sponsor, as always, Hitch Harness and Mr. Tyler Hall out of Fertile, Minnesota. He hasn't been racing lately. He actually took a week off and went down to, I believe, South Dakota for vacation with his family. So good to have some vacation and family time as well. If you haven't heard of Hitch Harness, be sure to stop by the website hitchharness.com and check out the products they have. The signature product being the single or double style receiver hitch harness. You can store your receiver hitches safely and efficiently to make life on the road much easier between your projects. You can also find stuff as far as chassis dogs and pull bar brackets to make your life easier in the shop as well. So if you have any questions, hit up Tyler. Look over to hitchartist.com once again, and thank you, Tyler, for the support on the podcast. So because John's not here, the lineup's a little bit shifted because he was scheduled to be on the pole. However, he is not here, so Jessup is on the pole, followed by myself and Becca. So that is the lineup, and John will join the rear of the field when he is able to join us. And so to make sure we get through as much of this before Becca falls asleep on us, we are going to wave or drop the green flag and get right into who or what are we repping with Mr. Jessup starting us off.
Well, thank you, Mason. I am representing a very nice Donny Schatz late model t-shirt. It's very different. Most people would think it's going to be his sprint car t-shirts, but no, not this time. It is a, let's see, late model t-shirt.
And I don't know if he's been racing that late model too much lately. Usually it's been one of his nieces that's been racing the late model.
Yes, yes. Well, hopefully we get to see Donnie in it again soon, but he's doing pretty well right now in the sprint car, so can't really blame him as he's in a heated battle for the World of Outlaw points championship.
Yeah, no, the Knoxville Nationals just took place this last weekend. He got off to a rough start, but he was able to redeem himself somewhat throughout the rest of the weekend.
Isn't it amazing that so many people love David Gravel, and yet every time I watch a Knoxville race, it's Donnie racing clean and racing everybody clean. And just about everybody runs over Donnie.
Maybe that's where Austin Dillon learned how to race this weekend.
I thought that was a sad incident because had it not been for the new playoff setup and the new finishing style, where they have to race to a green or a checkered flag finish, we never really would have had to deal with that.
Would make
But
for a good CNC topic.
but you know what? On the flip side of that, it wasn't it wasn't a very too long ago where the other number three driver used to drive through a bunch of drivers and nobody had a real issue. So I think Austin really just wanted to rattle his cage a bit going into three.
Yes, coming from like 20 miles back.
That was not 20 miles.
Pretty
Maybe,
good close.
maybe 20 feet, but not 20 miles.
Well, anyways, before we get sidetracked, cool shirt.
Thank you,
Be
Mason.
Becca, what are you repping?
I am wearing Jessup's Troy Morris the third hoodie. He wore it in the flag stand on Friday. I wore it at the racetrack on Saturday. I did wash it, but it was drying on yesterday when I got home, and it looked so inviting. So I wore it yesterday, and apparently I'm wearing it again today. Life is rough.
It appears like it, but it does. It's a really cool sweatshirt because it's easy to spot Becca when she's walking in the pits. Especially not just for the fact that it's got bright colors on a black sweatshirt, the fact that she was wearing a sweatshirt in the pits in the afternoon on Saturday.
No, it wasn't that warm.
It was much warmer than it was on Friday.
Well, I can't argue with that, but
And
Wasn't
there
warm.
was,
Whoops.
what were you saying, Becca?
Wasn't warm enough.
Wasn't warm enough. There was no breeze and there's legit not a cloud in the sky in the afternoon.
Wasn't warm enough. It's August. It should be at least 95.
No, we had 2 weeks of that, and that was plenty enough for my liking, at least.
Not enough.
Well, either way, it is a cool sweatshirt to rep.
Thank you.
thank you. Funny story about this sweatshirt. We last year when Troy came up on the tour, and there was like almost nobody with that T-shirt or hoodie, meaning nobody had bought one. So in Estevan, I saw it hanging out of his trailer, and I'm like, okay, it looks cool. It doesn't look like anything we'd have locally, so I went over and purchased one. The next day in Williston, there was at least another dozen to 20 people with the same hoodie, and after I had worn it around that night in Estevan.
When I know there's a couple of drivers that even said like post tour this year that a lot of them didn't bring enough gear. I think Becca, you even mentioned that because like a lot of times they sell out of gear on tour.
That's the thing that always makes me scratch my head about the drivers and selling merch on tour. Now, first thing I'm going to say is I get buying merch can be a very risky deal to try to sell it because it's a lot of money. But I always hear at least three to five drivers every year at the beginning of the tour. Yeah, we had ordered new shirts, but they just didn't get done. How do you not get it done? It's like the easiest money to make because literally you just go on tour and you put it on a hanger at the edge of your trailer, and at least a dozen people will come by in the first couple nights. And at $50 a pop for a hoodie, or 55 or 60 or whatever they're at now. That's going to cover your gas money for the weekend.
Well, I'm sure a lot of the shirt, I think it's more dependent on the shirt companies trying to get all that stuff done because, you
Yeah,
know,
but wouldn't you, if it's like your fourth year on the tour or going on tour, at some point, wouldn't you know to have your order in, say, maybe a month or 2 months in advance?
I would say yes, but being part of a tour that ordered sweatshirts like back in March and we still don't have them,
That's why you order locally.
yeah, well, it's a little frustrating. But thankfully, it's been hot out, so we haven't had to use the sweatshirts a ton. But it's gonna become sweatshirt and beanie season here pretty soon. Anyways,
What are you wearing, Mason?
so for my gear, I'm repping a new hat. This is the Campbell family. They race slingshots out of Watford City, and they had some new gear this weekend over in Jamestown. So grabbed a hat, and so see the 99, which is Jacob, and the 15, which is Zach. So be interested to see what they kind of how they progress in racing and what kind of classes they get into in the future. Repping Lindsey Hansen for the koozie, great supporter of mine. Good to see him back out in his late model this year after having some engine trouble earlier in the year. And then my shirt this week is of the 43K of Caden Blazer. He races a Wissona modified out of Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. It's a pretty cool looking shirt. Don't really see this color too often. Like kind of a light red, slightly pink. So a little bit different than normal. And so always good to see him. I don't get to see him a ton throughout the year, but when I do see him, he's really quick and very young. I believe he's like 15 or 16 years old, and he's already won some big races in his career. So that is who or what I'm repping for this episode.
You inspired me, Mason. I will rep a koozie as well.
Oh, I know what jacuzzi this is.
Which one is it, Mason?
I think was it the it's not from Sheldon Haudenschild's trailer. It was from
Oh, you're so close.
gosh, I don't think it was Gravels either.
It is the Sheldon Haudenschild can
Oh,
koozie that everyone
okay.
should love. It's the well, it's the motorboater edition. The cans that keep the can warm.
I am not sure what to
Cool.
say in response to this. I
Well,
was there when he purchased this too last year in Fargo, and I'm just like, oh gosh, Becca's gonna get a kick out of that.
They're squishy.
And the fact that Becca said that just proves my point. Well, anyways, that is who or what we are repping for episode 21 of season 3.
Now, Mason, this weekend we had some really nice racing action across the area.
So
Did you go
Friday,
anywhere Thursday?
I did go
Tell
places
me
on
about it.
I did go places on Thursday. So I
Where
went
did
over to
you
the
go?
Norman County Raceway. It was the first night of the Lightning Sprint Nationals. So we had a lot of out of staters on hand in the Lightning Sprints. I think it was 28 cars that they had. So
That's a
very
really
good.
good turnout.
Was a really good turnout and a lot of new faces. There's like, people from California, Michigan, Kansas,
Hmm.
and it like the field is already pretty good around the area, but when you bring all those other drivers in, holy cannoli. Like you get lap traffic in like 3 laps with some of those guys. And it gets nuts. It's like a whole bunch of bees just flying around.
I, uh, I I can believe that. After seeing them at the IRA NOSA show where the cars got spread out pretty quickly on just a normal field. So I could imagine with those top running guys, it wouldn't take too long to catch the rear.
It did not. And it was chaotic. We had 2 flips in that race. Thankfully, both drivers were okay. One of them was the leader, with like
That
2 to
happened.
go.
Didn't that happen when we went there too?
I can't remember if it was the leader that flipped or
I
not.
think it was the leader that flipped a
It was one
cop.
of the Haugebergs, yes.
Huh.
Because
Keep going, keep going. I'm sorry, I cut you off too
no,
much.
you're good. No, you're good. I'll just go over the results here real quick. They had five classes in total. The Legends kicked things off. They had a caution-free race with Ryan Broseth picking up the win. The track, by the way, was really tacky all night. Did not seem to lose any grip at all, but nice and smooth too. Sport Mods went to the 3X of Andy Spud Wagner. That is his first win of the year. So big congrats out to Andy. In the Lightning sprints, it was Dexter DeVerkstein who survived the chaos. I believe it was Brian Strain Jr., who's from Michigan, who was leading, and unfortunately got tangled with a lap car and flipped with like two to go. So that was unfortunate for him, but Dexter was patient and took advantage of it to pick up the first night of the Lightning Sprint Nationals. IMCA Hobby Stocks went to the 13C of Chase Peterson, who's racked up a bunch of wins out of Malacca, Minnesota. And these stock cars went to the Ripper Ryan Satter out of Dent, Minnesota for his first stock car feature win of the season. So they have one more race left on their schedules. And very good night last Thursday over at Norman County Raceway. So
Nice.
then Friday, all of us were at the Jamestown Speedway. Jessup was up in the flag stand while Becca and John were announcing as usual, and I was doing my video and tour stuff. So what was your vantage point from the flag stand, I guess, besides it being very high up?
It was good to be back in the flag stand. There was some interesting stuff. I'm trying to recall what happened here. I've been super focused on getting softball season done and getting ready back for school. But overall, heats were pretty good. Oh, that was the highlight for me the whole weekend was watching Cade's transmission fall out on his hobby stock. But anyways, we'll get on that in a second. It's probably one of the best views, if not the best view at Jamestown to watch. My other favorite spot is the metal stand over by the infield shed.
Mm-hmm.
Up there is an amazing view. We basically can just do a 360 and see everything. But up in the flag stand, it's usually really fun. It gets a little frustrating when there's a lot of cautions. And Friday, it wasn't bad during the heats, but the features were a bit much. And it seemed like everybody was antsy and everybody just wanted to get going. And it was a bit of a struggle bus for just about everybody except the MWM Smackdowners as they went green to checkered. And I think it was under 6.5 minutes total.
It was 5.5 minutes.
I think it was 6.5, but either way,
You were correct though. It was
I'd
under
be
6.5.
actually correct there. It's under 6.5. No, hats off to those guys. They did an amazing job. They had a lot of good drivers there both nights, from what I saw. Just looking at the results on Saturday night. But Friday night, great job to those guys. It's really fun to see them actually put on a great show and not have a bevy of cautions because I think talking with you, Mason, I think there's a general consensus between our group where it's either it's a really good feature where they may have one or less cautions and they put on an amazing show, or it's like a struggle bus demo derby where anything goes and it takes pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, I can
And
understand that.
it's not to be mean to them, it's just an observation from a person who doesn't race. So overall, it was fun to watch those guys do a really good job because when they get going, it's really good to watch them. And like kind of like your lightning sprints, they get into lap traffic pretty quickly at about just shy of the halfway point, usually at Jamestown.
Yeah, it doesn't take them long at all, especially when the track is as fast as it was.
Yep. Hobby stocks. Well, my favorite moment of the night for the hobby stocks had to be watching Kay Genska's uh, transmission literally fall completely out of the car. And like when sitting up in the flag stand, when we saw that happen, it looked like his motor block blew out of the car because the way it fell out and underneath the car. And it, from a distance, it looked like the motor it completely blew out. So definitely something you don't see every day. I know Brian and I both were discussing as they were picking the parts and pieces up. We thought it was the motor, but again, happened to be the just about the complete transmission that fell out. And I think Kelly Horner might have ran over it.
Because of course Kelly would be the one to run over it.
Yeah, he seems to be like a beacon for parts on the track, which is unfortunate for him because he tries super hard. But yeah, that was probably one of my big takeaways from it. A good race at the front between Bush and Asher, and those two put on a good show, and definitely fun to see those guys up at the front with some younger guys making some names for themselves. And Legends, it was an interesting race. They got to the bottom, and they kind of held the Dakota Speedway or line, or as John would call it, the Donovan Weiss line, and keep it down low, and that seemed to be the way to go. But overall, good race with the Legends, and then the street stocks. Um, you know, I thought the field was a little light, Mason. I thought we would have got it closer to about 32 to 30,
Mhm.
35, 36 guys. I'm not sure why the Travelers didn't all come over, but the ones that did come over, um, there were some really good names in the field, and the locals definitely put up a great fight, defending their home turf. As we now take a look at Gordy, but it was caution plagued, and it seemed like they were so antsy and they were chomping at the bit to get going that it put them kind of in a bad position at the beginning of the feature because in the I think, first two laps, they already had two cautions. And with Jamestown being a track that if you get to your third caution in the feature, it goes automatically black, yellow. So if you cause the next caution or any caution after that, you're going straight to the pits. And I don't know if that kind of riled them up a bit, but it seemed like they were a little antsy. What'd you think?
Yeah, it took a little bit to get going. It honestly reminded me a little bit of the first night we were in Wisconsin because that was a 40-minute feature and they had like 13 cautions.
Yep.
Thankfully this wasn't that bad, but it was like, all right, well, we're at least nipping off 2 laps at a time. But yeah, once like the racing itself outside the cautions was really good. But yeah, just the close quarters racing 3 and 4 wide, and kind of that's what
Yeah,
happens.
it was interesting. Uh, yeah, we'll leave it at interesting. Ty Egan had a nice victory that on Friday to close out the night, and actually, I think the Legends closed out tonight, but
Yep, they
uh,
did.
Ty, and regardless, took the win, and it was good to see some of the locals being aggressive up front, and just an interesting night for that division.
Indeed. Before I do go down the results, Becca, did you have anything you wanted to add from Friday?
I really enjoyed Kayla Coates' mac and cheese. It was really good.
Yeah, hey, fun fact. She brought actual noodles instead of just cheese this time.
Yes, you did. It was a very good addition to the Last Supper, as we had a ton of food afterwards.
That was awesome. They put on a heck of a spread. Everybody involved should deserves a tip of the cap, as I like to say, because they did an amazing job with that.
I brought chips and buns.
Attaboy, Mason. Way to contribute.
Hey, you got to contribute as much as you possibly can, and that was the extent of my contribution to cooking. Anyways, I'll get into the results. Or Gordy, do you want to do results with me? He's like, sure, why not? I'll do results. So we start with the slingshots, which that went to Caden Davenport in front of Gunnar Raynard, kind of a surprise visitor from up in Canada.
That was a fun race.
Yeah,
They put on a good show, and again, kind of like the B mods or the Midwest mods, it's either really good or it's either a blowout in most cases. And when it's good, it definitely gets the fans' attention, and they get pretty loud for that.
yeah. And they had a good amount of slingshots. They had 9 on Friday night, so that's a good amount to have, and had some travelers along the way, so that's also good. Jessup mentioned the hobby stocks already with Eric Bush picking up the win in front of Asher Williams. They were side by side the last couple of laps. Shout out to Kelly Horner, who, after the heat race troubles, went from 22nd to 6th. So he did a lot of passing in the hobby stocks. Next up was the Midwest Modifieds, which went caution free, and that went to Jared Klein, which was his first Midwest Mod win in Jamestown. He's won a few other Midwest Mod shows, but this was his first one in his home track in Jamestown. I think he mentioned he's finished second 8 times at least in Jamestown. So that definitely would have to get frustrating for a guy like Jared, who's really competitive.
Yep, that's a good one to get off your back, but at the same time, look at the quality of field he has to race against week in and week out, and there's no slouches in the top 10.
No, I mean, he got out in front. Brendan Waite was trying to make a charge late, was trying to run him down, but you also have like Lucas Rodin, Zach Ranke, just to name a couple that he has to kind of deal with almost on a weekly basis. And so you're right.
You
Definitely
know,
a lot of competition.
one thing I thought was amusing was Brennan making a comment about the scoreboard not working. And sounded to be a little, I don't know if there was a little frustration with that, but I would really, I would really hate to see these guys have to go back to the days without any scoreboard up at all. And you'd have to watch the flag person only.
Well, I remember I talked to Kyle Anderson after the race, and he had mentioned he had looked up the scoreboard. It was probably like 8 laps in at this point, and he's like, "I swear, if we have 20 laps still remaining, because I am like exhausted at this point."
And that was the other side of it too. Maybe he was just joking about it. I'm sure he probably was, but at the same time, what did drivers do without a scoreboard?
Well, and not every track I believe has a scoreboard. I think McLean was one of the most recent ones to get a scoreboard in the last couple of
I think
years.
I think Tri-County has a lap board, I think.
They do have a lap board. I'm trying to think if there's one that doesn't have like a scoreboard or a lap board.
Cheyenne?
They have a lap board.
Thunder Mountain.
That might be the. Oh no, I think there's one in the bottom of turn 1. I'd have to double check. It's been a couple years or years.
Southwest have one?
Southwest definitely has one. They have that pylon off the edge of turn 1.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Williston when it doesn't get struck by lightning.
Yes.
Why are you grimacing at me?
I mean,
It's a factual statement.
it is a factual statement that yeah, when something doesn't get struck by lightning, that it actually works. Fair enough. So that was Midwest Modified. Street stocks were up next. Definitely no shortage of competition with the street stock tour in town for both nights, Friday and Saturday. 29 cars on Friday night, and looks like we lost Riba. So it's just us two now, Jessup.
Down to us. Let's finish up this recap, and then we'll go and pick up where John gets back from getting his singular haircut.
Sounds good. It was Ty Egg at Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, taking the win in front of a fellow Wisconsin driver, Andrew Hansen, who came from 11th. Derek Turner with his best tour finish in 3rd, followed by Justin Vogel and Kyle Dykhoff. So top 5 right there. That's a lot of wins and a few national championships.
Well, we should also mention Vogel came pretty far back from spinning out right away. I think it was the first lap.
First lap,
Either
yep.
first or second, and he take the rear and came back pretty far. So that was pretty impressive. My race pass won't tell you that he passed over 20 some cars to get back there, but
Right.
and
Yeah.
he smoked the wall.
Yeah, he smoked the wall. One of the, I think it was the last caution because I think when Hunter Carter got into Derek Turner, that he jumped over Hunter's car and nailed the backstretch wall. So you're right.
I thought Derek had a really good race that
He
night.
did.
That's probably going to be one of his better races for the year, I bet.
Yeah, and he has been struggling the last several weeks up until last week when they replaced the rear end because the rear end was actually bent in the car. And like he even said when the different rear end got put in, he's like, it's like a whole new car. I can actually drive it and it'll actually go where I think.
It's a shocking situation when you have all the pieces working and functioning properly.
Almost a was that almost a forced play on words there?
No, that just came to my head, and that's how I phrased it. But I'll just do this. Yeah, yeah,
Very
good.
well done. Yeah, like you said, Justin moved up 2 positions according to my race pass, but passed like 25 cars in the process.
Yeah,
And then to finish out Friday night in the NX Legends, like you said, it was a fight for the bottom, which is not really typical for Legends at Jamestown. Usually they're on the middle or all over the place, but
they
bottom was
were.
the place to
Yeah, they
be.
were pretty much about a half groove off the cement, and then they went up about maybe a groove and a half, two grooves up, and we're talking legend size grooves. So it's a very narrow path.
Yeah. But it was Colin Compson picking up the win in front of the Madlers, Noah and Gage, with Austin Weiss and Donovan Reese running the top five. So Colin Compson kind of wreaking havoc on the families in the Legend division there for his second win of the season in Jamestown. So that was Friday night's action over the Jamestown Speedway, the first night of Big Wheels, Big Motor Weekend or something like
Wheels
that.
weekend, big wheels.
John will correct us on that. He'll have the right pronunciation.
Yeah, John will say something once. Hopefully, they don't cut too many of his hairs off. He might not be balanced.
No, he might not be. His aerodynamics will be thrown off.
Oh, Mason.
What?
Aerodynamics.
Aerodynamics. You've never heard aerodynamics?
No, no.
Yeah, you're older than me. I figured you'd have heard that by now.
I don't have a lot of hair left anymore.
You trying to compete with John for that?
No, I don't want to compete with John. That's all him.
I think you'll lose that battle.
He will be the most aerodynamic individual in our group. Yeah,
Longer.
we're back into this week's hot sauce memory recap.
Indeed. And who is our sponsor of the Hot Sauce Hot Memory Rewind, Jessup?
Isaac Sondrol, hot sauce himself. The man with the snack shack, the man with the plan, the man with the menu for every place he goes.
And great announcing, too.
He is getting a lot better at it. He's almost a natural.
I think he is a natural. He's fun to listen to. I I think listened to him once at Underwood so far this year, and I'm sure that won't be the last he'll be announcing this year, as he's probably going to take the rest of the year off until maybe a race or two in invitational season. So we'll see. But thank you so much, Isaac, for supporting us on the podcast. We hope to see you back out there on the racetrack here real soon.
As we scramble here to get all of our photos somewhat in line. The first one,
I'm prepared.
Mason
I am
says
too.
John isn't prepared. He's slightly, misbalanced. His aerodynamics are all out of sorts.
He stole
It's
that line
true.
from me, by the way.
My
Anyways,
aerodynamics look way better.
we're digging into our own personal hero cards and photos. So number one this week, John already knows this one.
It's Scott Lawrence from 1999.
Wrong. Scott Lawrence from 1998.
Okay, fine.
Number two. We're gonna put this here. Let's go like this actually. So, oh, I can't use that one. I guess that actually has the name right in
The
it.
names are next to the cars.
Is that Kevin Carlson?
Very good, Mason.
Yeah, that car actually looks pretty cool too. I remember seeing that one back in the day.
Go like this. Maybe we can get this one in. Yeah, okay. Number 3 coming on up. Only gonna get half the hero card.
11. Lauren Inman?
No.
From Duluth. Jody Belfine?
Very good, John. So far, we're 3 for 3.
Jeff
6M.
Massengill.
What is this? Who are we saying?
Go ahead, Mason.
I was saying Massengill.
Which one?
Jeff?
No,
No.
it's John.
John Massengill, one of his earlier or late model rides.
I didn't know there was another Massengill.
His
There was.
father used to race. Or is it his
Yes.
brother? Father, I
I
think.
think it's his brother, isn't it? I thought it was his brother.
That was
His older
yeah,
brother.
one of the two. All right, coming on up on the next one. This should be pretty easy if I can get the. We'll just go like this.
I know who it is.
Who is it?
Well, show me the picture. Kyle Peterlin from 2005.
That didn't take long. Sure, I'll give it to you in 2005. I don't.
That was the year that he won the Whistler 100 with that car.
All right, last one. Another Iron Range driver.
I'm actually a really big Kyle Peterlin fan. I've been for
He
years.
usually has a lot of nice cars.
A 20. That number looks familiar, but I don't remember.
He's from Hibbing.
Is he still race?
I think he has raced in the last couple of years.
Gosh, I don't remember who that is.
He was pretty hot for a while
That's
in
why
the
I
Iron
recognize the
Range. He was a very hard runner.
I got nothing. I can't think of anyone.
John?
Gosh, I don't remember his name.
It would be Jeff Hart.
Thank you. It's like, gosh, you look so familiar, and I cannot think of the name. I was like, it's Hart something.
Yep, Jeff Hart. He was a very good racer. I think he still races from time to time, every now and then, but definitely has cut back. I'm going to double check that right now as we speak, as Mason pulls up his photos.
Yeah, I can pull mine up here.
Jeff Hart. Hibbing, Minnesota. Last raced 2019, so it's been a while.
It's been a few years. Yep, been about 5 years in.
Yep, he's 60 now, so
Ooh, Mason, that's a really sharp looking car.
Indeed, it is.
what happened here? Wow.
I shared my screen.
Oh, my screen shrunk. I was like,
Mason, I believe that is Andrew Hansen.
John is correct.
I would say the same. I would go with John.
It is. That is Andrew Hansen. Yes.
The reason why I said that is because I kind of know where Phillips lanes are, and that's what kind of gave it away to me.
Yep. Yep. Over in Wisconsin. And then my other photo, I think. Oh, hang on.
This isn't really even fair. Mason's got a stockpile of stolen photos from online.
I
This
was
is
gonna
true.
I was gonna do this one last week, but I saved it for this week.
Adam Brotherton.
John's 2 for 2.
I was not going to get that one.
It
Sorry,
was like this
Joseph.
one was to be a tricky one.
I remember that paint scheme for Adam back in the Huron days.
One of the few 14s I know. Travis Hagen.
It is definitely not Travis Hagen.
Well, when you're limited on the number 14 of knowledge,
It's true.
Travis.
Okay, so I have three. One of them's going to be a little bit hard, so I'm gonna have to really zoom in on that other one. But the first two are going to be probably pretty clear.
Number 3.
Oh, I think I know this one.
Go ahead.
Todd Dart.
No,
No,
What?
shoot, that's Derek
What?
Bernstein. Sorry.
this is Derek Bernstein.
I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna get that one. I was gonna say Todd Dart's out of like southern Wisconsin. How
Yeah,
I
but
know
did you pull that name?
No, I was like, we've only seen him, Mason, like once ever. I think he ran the Mod Tour 1 year.
well,
Yeah,
he's got an
Todd
iconic
Felix
three
the
scheme,
Cat.
all right?
Todd Felix the Cat Dart.
Okay, the next one.
I like how this is probably the most amusing part of this, Mason, is when he starts pulling the photo up, all you see is our heads slowly getting closer to the screen. We're
Yes.
It's
gonna be
true.
getting older. So
15.
15. And the track has blue.
That's a Jamestown photo.
It
Yeah.
is.
Does this driver still race?
He ran last year, but not this year.
Oh. Huh. Street stock still?
He was in a street stock last year.
15 street stock. Come on, Mason. I'm giving you good lead-in questions.
Can't think of a 15 street stock that ran only like a last year.
I don't know, John.
The hint that I have is that he's won multiple big races in the Wissota street stock.
That doesn't help me.
Did he race the same number last year?
No.
Oh, well, that really screws us then.
What number did he typically race, or what did he race last year?
I think it was 19 last year. And the hint is that Mason actually saw him race last year.
19.
I
Who's the guy? I don't know.
I don't know.
That was Jimmy Randall is who that was.
Okay,
That was a
all
good
right.
hint, John. That was a good
What
hint.
year? What year do you think that photo was? Here, I'll put it back up.
2010.
No.
I want to guess like 2006.
Mason, you're close. It was 7. Both him and
2024.
Bernstein's photo was from 2007.
2008.
Okay. Here's my final one that's going to be a little bit hard to see, so I have to zoom in quite a bit on it.
Oh, that's Jamestown. Yes.
Oh,
Justin Jones.
Jared Thielen.
That's Jared Thielen.
I don't know. I couldn't see the numbers.
It was 65. I bet this was taken with John's camera.
It was. That was when I was at the top of the grandstands taking them as they came in. I think it was during the Labor Day shootout special is what the Jamestown used to have. Actually, all those used to be during the Labor Day shootout special.
Nice. I think that was maybe 2012 with the Thielen
I think
one?
it was 12. Yeah, I think it was 2012. I think that year was 2012. The other ones were 2007.
Flexing my knowledge on Jared Thielen.
So I thought that would be a good one because it's definitely a throwback paint scheme related to his car.
Indeed. It helps that he was from Minot too.
This is
It's
true.
my notion.
A fellow Minosian. Yes.
Why not?
Who Mason, I think, moved to like Fargo for a couple years because he ran a Midwest mod out of the Fargo area for a while.
I think he moved to Fargo, he moved to Bismarck, and now he's back in
He
Minot.
said, "Why not?"
Kind of like
Why not?
kind of like Tusher a little bit. Chris Tusher moved around for a couple years too, and so did Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer moved around for a couple years too.
They were all kind of in the same group. They kind of rubbed off on each other in that way too.
They did. Yep.
Alrighty, well, that is the Hot Sauce Hot Memory Rewind for this week. Before we get back into the recap, John, what are you repping for this episode?
Okay, so what I'm repping is that sorry guys, I had to go get a haircut. It had to be rescheduled with the weather today. So because half of Bismarck flooded due to heavy thunderstorms this afternoon that weren't even severe, but just very much had a lot of rain. So it is Drive to Survive week at the Dakota Speedway. We have raised over $30,000 for the Bismarck Cancer Center. And I am wearing the Drive to Survive t-shirt for this weekend. So
Excellent.
very nice shirt, all pink. Mason and I are matching on this episode, and it's got a very nice ribbon on the front of it for breast cancer. And they're going to be doing a pre-race meet and greet with the drivers before we race on Friday night, right outside of the main gate. So that'll be kind of fun. They've done that the last couple of years, and it'll be a good time. We're going to have Vivian there again with the fire truck. So the fire truck will be there with Vivian, and then yeah, a lot of the Bismarck Cancer folks will be there as well. And it's always a nice fundraiser for the Bismarck Cancer Center over at the Dakota Speedway. And a lot of drivers usually decorate their cars in pink. So I'm looking forward to that here on this upcoming Friday.
Excellent. Yeah, that's always a very popular weekend over at the Dakota Speedway, or popular night, I should say. And so that kind of leads well into Saturday night, because we kind of did something similar in regards to breast cancer awareness at Jamestown. It was the second night of what was it called? Is it Big Motor Weekend, Big Wheel Weekend? What was
Big
it?
wheels. It's Big Wheels weekend
Big
over in Jamestown.
Mason.
As they had motocross going on, they had mud drags going on, they had the races going on, and they had drag racing going on. So they had a lot going on throughout the whole entire weekend. As it started on Friday, preparation started Thursday, started Friday, and it went all the way through Sunday. I think drag racing got done sometime early evening on Sunday.
Okay, so they definitely had a lot of stuff going on, and we recapped Friday night while you were getting your hair cut or hairs cut.
I had to get my one haircut over here, so it was good.
Indeed, we were trying to figure
Yeah.
I was
that
looking
out.
a little. I was looking like I was just scrapping, so I needed to get done.
John, do you get a discount?
I do because I am such a light when I go in there.
A light, as in a blinding light or a glaring light?
Well, it's mostly the glaring light, but it's also my bubbling personality that also gives me that too.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Well, anyways, getting into Saturday's recap. Before we get into the results, John, what would your main takeaway be?
I'm gonna pull a Jessup. There were a lot of cars.
You don't say.
No, I think truly that surprised everybody on Saturday. But the weather was, I would say, absolutely perfect on Saturday. There was hardly no breeze. It was mid 70s. It was sunny. There wasn't a whole lot of humidity in the air, and it was just a gorgeous day overall. And Mason, we ended up with 167 cars in the pits on Saturday night, and a full field in pretty much every single class, which was awesome to see. My personal favorites were, I was super happy that they had 30 Dirt Race Central with loaded street stocks, one more car than what we had on Friday night. And I was extremely happy that we had 27 late models. So, Jessup, I wish you were there because the late models were a lot of fun to watch over in Jamestown on Saturday, and it was just a great night with the late models being part of the show.
Yeah, I wish I could have been able to make it. Um, Prior engagements kept me away. But it looked like a good field of cars, a very diverse field of cars. And it's always fun to get those diverse fields where you get to see drivers who usually don't get to race each other get the chance to go wheel to wheel with one another.
Yeah, I would agree. There was a lot going on besides the cars there that night. John mentioned the street stock tour, late models being added to it. We had a high heel race at intermission, which was very popular and very spirited. So that was also entertaining for the fans, and very, very good crowd. Like the stands were pretty dang full for the night.
Oh yeah, stands were packed on Saturday night. Friday night they were a little bit lighter because I think it's just Friday night and there was a lot going around in the town on Friday. But Saturday with the street stocks and with the late models there, it looked like the pits looked like a mini stampede, but the grandstands also looked like a mini stampede. I mean, there wasn't a lot of room in the grandstands at all on Saturday night when we were over there. And Mason, I know, was running back and forth from pit side to grandstand side, and he got to see them on both sides. The pit stand side was pretty full, and the grandstand side on the grandstands were really full. So that was really nice to see too. And plus, a lot of people stayed throughout the whole entire night, even though I know the 167 cars, it got to be a late night. That did not surprise me at all. I was still happy that they were done before 1 o'clock because I could have actually seen that go a lot longer. So I'm glad actually it ended before that time frame. So, and the other thing, Mason, I think that we have to kind of mention on too is that there wasn't a ton of track prep done throughout the night. So it was basically intermission and that was about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they really didn't have to do a whole lot because I know after Friday night they were kind of working the track until like 2 in the morning. I left at 2:30 from the track on Friday night, and they were had still been working on the track from like 1 to 1:30 at least. And so, yeah, definitely put in a lot of work overnight, and definitely paid off once the Saturday rolled around. They didn't have to spend too much time. They just had to try to get through all the heats and all the features. And so, why don't we get into the results, shall we?
Okay, so Mason, you want to take team classes, so I'll do the first one, you do the next one, and then we kind of go back and forth.
Works for me.
Okay, so I will actually probably, sorry, I'm going to take the first two because of slingshots. I'm going to include them kind of in the first one.
Yep.
Within the slingshot division, it was Caden Davenport. We had 10 slingshots on Saturday night, and it was Caden Davenport that doubled up for the weekend. He's looked really good over in Jamestown in his slingshot. Actually, I don't think he's been beat yet in his slingshot over in Jamestown. I think he's won every single time he's been over there. He's been over there 4 times. I think he's got 4 wins. So Caden's looked really good in his slingshot. Congratulations to him. And then Jacob Campbell was second. So the Campbell brothers were over there too for the whole entire weekend, and they looked really good in their slingshots. Good news is too is that at Jamestown they get paid out too. They get some money from the volunteers over there to pay out the whole entire field. So that's kind of nice for those young slingshot drivers. Then in your hobby stock division, hobby stocks had 23 cars, and they had just graded the track after that one too. And it was a very interesting battle up front between kind of the Dylan Steele show up front because Dylan pretty much kind of had probably about, I would say, about a half a second to a second advantage over the field, pretty much the whole entire feature event. But the battle for second between Dylan Thorpe, Eric Bush, Joe Jacobson, you had to throw the Horners in there as well, and then Asher Williams in there. That was a great battle for second on back because they were side by side for numerous laps over there. And Dylan Thorpe, who pulled the car out of the weeds here just this past year, which has been kind of nice because we hadn't seen Dylan probably in a couple years, and it's nice to see him back on the track. And he looked good. He finished runner up.
Yeah, so a pair of Dillons taking the top 2 spots. So that was good to see in the Bombers. Very, very good
They
race,
had
like John said.
23 cars in the Bombers on Saturday, so they had 24 on Friday and 23 on Saturday.
Yeah. So then up next, I believe, was the Wissota Midwest Modifieds, and took a little bit to get going. Had a couple of early cautions. Kind of took out a couple of the competitors, including Phil Chrislib and Zach Ranke, who are been looking really good in Jamestown this year so far. So after they got going, Jaron Whipstead kind of checked out with the race lead. He kind of struggled a little bit on Friday night. It was a battle to get to the front for Brendan Witt and Jared Klein as they start a little deeper with the point average, and was another long green flag run, and they were starting to get into lap traffic, and Whipstead was kind of getting held up a little bit, but it wasn't enough that you thought that Brendan was going to catch him. But come around to the white flag, and Brendan's within like 4 car lengths, kind of a whole Austin Dillon deal once again, except this time he didn't like ram into the back of him and spin him out. Just kidding. But Brendan threw a slider, kind of left him a lane up above him, and they drag raced the line, and Brendan ended up edging out Jaron Whipstead for the win in the Midwest Modifieds, and he was second the night before. So nice little redemption for Brennan on night 2. Jared Klein rounded out the podium with a 3rd place finish. So really good race again in the Midwest Modifieds.
And after they got going, they kept continued going. So that was kind of nice to see too. They had that, like Mason said, they had a couple early cautions, and then they went basically clean and green after that. So Legends was a great battle up front. They had 29 Legends, so they ran a Conti, and Legends started 24. And it was the youngster, Ty Olson, Ty's 14, and picked up his second win in Jamestown on Saturday night. It was kind of nice to see, though, that we were able to interview him in Victory Lane because the first time around, he won on July 20th, and that was the nice night that Mason came and brought the weather with him. And so the weather was coming down from the north, and so it was a mad dash to finish the features that night before the weather hit. And unfortunately, we were never able to interview Ty. So it was nice to see Ty in Victory Lane, and then he beat the likes of Preston Martin, Noah Madler was right there, Colin Thompson was right there. So a very good feature event and very good win for Ty Olson, and he almost picked up the win over at Buffalo River on Sunday too. I watched the ending of that feature event, and Evan Hendrickson held him off basically right at the line to get the win over there at Buffalo River on Sunday. So Ty is one of those up and comers that you're gonna have to watch for, as he's only 14 in Legends and he's already looking really good.
Yeah, definitely is starting to stack up wins pretty quickly in the Legend division. So then up next were your street stocks, the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour for their night number 2. They had 30 cars, of course, on hand. We had a B main as well. We started 24 this night and got off to a rough start. We had a big wreck at the very first lap. I think Jane Chris got a little sideways in front of the field and collected a whole bunch of drivers, including Cole Grasset, Jody Michelson, who was the points leader coming in, and Spencer Johnson, who actually ended up rolling over, which thankfully Spencer was okay. Car doesn't look too bad. It was a very soft rollover. So
Yeah, it took out about I think 4 or 5 cars is what we counted right after that got done. So that was too bad too. But then they had Mason a couple early cautions, and then we kind of went clean and green to the end. It was kind of a theme on Saturday night: early cautions, and then kind of green and clean and green after that.
yeah, and so it turned into a battle. Billy Chris started up front. He was kind of like leading the charge throughout the feature, and then you had Andrew Hansen and Justin Vogel starting to track him down. Billy was, I believe, running the kind of the middle part of the track, and then Andrew was kind of running a little bit lower, and Vogel was just trying to rip the high side. And it got to about 10 laps to go. Vogel got to the outs, or tried to get to the outside of Billy, got into him just a little bit, and that gave Andrew Hansen the momentum to get underneath him and take the lead. And he cruised on to get his second tour win of 2024, with Billy Chris holding off Justin Vogel for second. And shout out to fourth place finisher Ty Agan, as he got involved in that first lap melee, went into the pits, had to get a tire change, had to get a shock replaced, and came from the back all the way up to fourth. So great run for Ty Agan as well, who had won the previous night on Friday night.
Yeah, that was a fun race to watch too because after they got started, they continued going and they almost went 3 wide at a couple points for that lead because you could tell Billy was up front and Andrew was fast on the bottom, Justin was fast on the high side, and they were slowly like catching him at the same time, which was kind of a neat thing to really see from a battle perspective.
Yep.
So modifieds were wild and crazy to start. I don't know about the start of that race. That race looked like it was like dicing and slicing every single which way as they completed lap 1 and then again completed lap 2, and they definitely had a couple of early cautions because of that. And then they finally got kind of going a little bit within the middle of that feature, and then they had a caution come out with about, I think based on with about 6 or 7 to go, they had a caution come out.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of stacked the field back up. But it was definitely a battle up front between John Nord looked really good on the bottom. He was using the bottom part of the speedway. And then you had behind him, you had Alan Kent, who had won the week before on that Saturday night. You had Tim Perkins that was right there in the 89 machine in his first appearance at Jamestown this year. And then you also had the likes of Chris Tusher that was right there. Tusher was running the high side, kind of one of the only drivers up there, and then Tim Perkins went up there too. And on the restart, Tim had actually kind of kept ground up with John because John was really really fast on the bottom. And at the line, John Nord had held off Tim Perkins. It was probably within maybe a 2 car lengths, pretty much of the cars. Kind of those final couple of laps. And Tim, it was interesting to watch because John was better in 1 and 2, and Tim was better in 3 and 4. So it was like John would kind of stretch him in 1 and 2, and Tim would catch him right back up in 3 and 4. So yeah, so really good battle up there with one on the bottom and one on the top, and John Nord picked up a win.
Yeah, that was a fun race to watch. The modifieds, they were all over the track.
Yeah, 25 cars in the modifieds too, so really good car count within your IMC modifieds.
Yep, and of course the special treat added to Saturday night was the WISSOTA late models. 27 late models on hand, and had a couple, once again, early cautions to get things started. But then they rattled off like the last 20 to 22 laps, I think it was, clean and green.
Yep, they did. It was like the last 20 laps, I think, were clean and green directly, and it was a fun race to watch. Just that was a lot of fun to kind of watch that one too, because not a lot of times would you see late models kind of hugging the wall in Jamestown. They were hugging the wall in Jamestown. That was kind of the neat thing. So you had Chad Becker that was using the bottom part of the speedway and making up a lot of time around the bottom. Kind of behind him, kind of in that same realm, was the likes of Greg Moore, the likes of Travis Robertson. Some of those guys were on the bottom. And then you had the likes of like Kevin Robertson, Don Shaw, Dustin Strand that were ripping the lip on the high side. So it was kind of a very neat race to watch because it was the finesse on the bottom and then the blowing it in on the high side and hoping it sticks. We saw that a lot actually during that late model race. So Chad Becker had worked his way. I think he started the feature event in 5th or 7th. He was on the bottom row, started in 7th, and had worked his way up to the front and passed for the lead probably within about 10 laps into that race. And when Becker gets in front multi-time, national champion, was still 100 champion. He's tough to beat. And Chad was very finessing it around the bottom, was very much so doing that. Dustin Strand had worked his way up to second, and he was driving it in hard. He was hitting the lip on the high side, and then diming it off in 1 and 2 and just railing it around the top in 3 and 4. And Dustin was about 3 seconds back at one point, and I think Mason at the finish, he was down to maybe only a couple tenths of a second behind Chad, and they were in heavy lap traffic, and lap traffic was all over the track. They were on the bottom, middle, top, all over the place. The drivers that I was watching more deeper in the field that were kind of working their way through the field was Cole Schill. Cole started back in about the mid, 11th, 12th place, and had worked his way up to third. And Cole was kind of using the middle to bottom part of the speedway as well. And then you had Kevin Robertson on the high side and Travis Robertson on the bottom. And then behind them, you had Cole Babcock using the bottom to get back up to the front because he had fallen back at the start of that race. And then you also had Don Shaw running the high side, as well as Greg Moore on the bottom. So a lot of really good battles throughout that race, and they were all over the track. That was a fun thing to see because it's been a long time since I've seen the late models be able to use every single inch of Jamestown Speedway.
Nice.
Well, and it was really cool when you have like guys like Chad Becker, Don Shaw, and Dustin Strand pulling the pits. And it's like you got like the who's who of late models in this area of the country.
Yeah, that was really neat to see, especially when they pulled in. You got Denver Nixon pulled in then. Then you had the likes of Cole Schill, multi-time stock car Stampede champion and Jamestown Speedway winner. He pulled in, and yeah, so it was really neat to see a lot of those guys pull in. And thank you to Paul Mueller and his whole group over there. They put up a lot of sponsorship money for the late model purse, and they did a really good job with that. Lane also put up a lot of stuff on there too. Lane Schwer, he put up a ton of money. His family did for like hard charger and long tow. I think for long tow, if I'm not mistaken, they put up $150 for long tow award, and then for hard charger they put up $250 for hard charger in that feature event. So that was pretty cool to see, and just a lot of drivers that were excited to get back into Jamestown. They did it like a pre race meet and greet down front, and you could just tell that they were excited to be back on the schedule before the Stampede.
Yeah. Overall, a really, really good night in Jamestown. Also, shout out to Kyle and Chris Anderson, who they had hard charger and
That is
long
true.
tow money for the street stocks. So
Yep. Yep.
excellent.
And yeah, and Mason, overall for the weekend in Jamestown, I think one of the couple of takeaways was the track was definitely different than what we're used to from a Jamestown Speedway perspective. It was the new dirt had made it way more tacky than what we were really used to from the Jamestown side. And then definitely more there was definitely some character in the track as well throughout both nights that had, especially by the end of the night in Jamestown, though on night two, it had definitely been worked in. I think the bigger tires with the late models definitely worked it in quite a bit. But it was definitely a different surface than what we're used to. We saw it the first week when they put the new dirt on that the track had stayed definitely a little bit tackier throughout the night, and then especially Friday and Saturday night, it was definitely on the tackier side, and there was not a hint of rubber in sight when it
No,
came across either one of those nights.
there was not, which is definitely a good move in the right direction. I'm sure that's as the season progresses more towards the Stampede, the track will just keep improving and improving. So overall, really fun weekend in Jamestown.
And we all got to be there together. That was the fun part.
Yes, we did. Been a
There
while
was
since that's happened.
there was no shenanigans that was going on with all of us being together.
Nope, none at all.
None.
No.
I'll quickly wrap up the track pack report with my excursion to Granite City as I was at a go-kart track in the afternoon and got there pretty much when all the heat races were just about done. It was meet the drivers night, so I got like another 40 to 50 hero cards, so a whole bunch of winnings for me to add to the collection. They had all seven of their regular classes taking place, starting with the street stocks, which Ty Egan, who was planning to take the day off, decided to stop on by the Granite City Motor Park on his way back to Chippewa Falls, and he picked up the win in front of Austin Hamry. So great end of the weekend for the 26 of Ty Egan. In the late models, it was Ryan Michelson picking up the win as he tracked down Shane Zabrowski and passed him, which that hasn't happened too much with Shane Zabrowski as of late. And so big congrats out to the 15 star of Ryan Michelson on the win. In the Midwest Modifieds, it was Will Moulter out of Elk Mound, Wisconsin, picking up the win, and that actually was his first win in the Midwest Modifieds. So big congrats out to William Moulter, and he had to hold off a couple of the past national champions to do it, and Jake Smith and Zach Benson. So not an easy feat by any means there. Hornets went to the 26 of Jenna Hageman, who has been on a little bit of a hot streak as of late in the Minnesota Hornets. These super stocks went to the 19X of James Trantina at his home track. He got through the field first, and Dexton Cook just was behind him, was trying to track him down, just ran out of time. So congrats to James Trantina for holding off the national points leader right now in the super stocks. Mod fours, we had a bunch of carnage. It was a really good race, but we had a bunch of carnage towards the end of that race. I took out 3 or 4 of them. But in the end, it was Robert Holtquist picking up the win in front of his son, Dustin Holtquist, in the mod fours for a nice 1-2 finish for the Holtquist. And in the modifieds, it was Shane Sabraski making the pass on Kennedy Swan halfway through the race to claim the victory there. From what I heard, that was feature win number 917. So
Wow.
That's
he
impressive.
is racking up the wins quickly. He just crossed over 900, and it's like, yeah, he's at feature win 917. I'm like, wow, that is insane.
Well, and what's even more impressive on that too is that Shane had some health problems here only a couple weeks back, and luckily he's doing okay. He had, I think, a mild heart attack, I think is what he ended up having here just a few weeks back, and was out of the car for about, what was it, Mason, for about a week, almost 2 weeks, and then was back
Yeah.
into it, and
I
hopefully
don't
he's
think
still
it's
taking
that
care of his
long.
health.
Yeah, I don't think it
So
was even 2 weeks. I think it was like maybe
no,
a
I think it
week
was
and a
about a
half.
week and a
Maybe a
half
week.
because I think it happened. I think it happened before the races in Ogilvy on a Saturday, didn't it? And then he was out that Sunday through
Yes.
the next Sunday, and then he was back that next Thursday, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep. So not a bad week. Well, we'll get into it a little bit more as someone has a little more they want to say on Shane Sabraski. But that is the Track Packer report for this week, and we will move into what's upcoming next with racing across the state of North Dakota with Mr. Dakota Dirt.
Oh my goodness, guys, if you have not checked it out, you have to check out Dakota Dirt. So they are social. They're on social media platforms on their website at dakotadirt.org, as well on Facebook. So check them out. They will give you results, weather forecasts, which is basically really good right now, especially when Mason's in the area, and much more on Dakota Dirt. Again, you can check them out at dakotadirt.org, and be sure be sure to like them on Facebook as they need more likes.
I swear, John, we'll sooner or later eventually do an article this year. Maybe.
Yes, this is why I did not mention that because they have been very lackluster when it comes to
We
article
have
writing.
it's been very light this year to say the least. But what's not light is this week's upcoming race schedule as it all kicks off on Friday night. The Dakota Speedway at 7 o'clock has the 16th annual Drive to Survive race. John kind of broke that down a little bit earlier. A lot of good racing for a good cause. This night always seems to be a bit hectic, and there's a lot of calamity going on. Um, so this would be a fun night for a lot of the fans, casual fans, to get out to. River Cities, I believe, is having their school bus races. They'll be having the NOSA 410 sprints, also kind of highlighting their night. Red River Valley's kicking off night one of the Howie Schill Memorial. Um, NLRA late models, IMCA sprint cars, IMCA mods, and hobby stocks. So good night of racing over there, which also kind of allows their stock car guys, maybe if they want to go venture out to the west over at Dakota Speedway. Saturday, another jam-packed night of racing. You have the Southwest Speedway having their season championship. Then Thunder Mountain is also having their season championship. And then Jamestown has the Jeff Carpenter Memorial Driven to Care night. So that's always a good night as well. Devil's Lake Speedway has the fourth annual Cliff Reeves $1,004 to win street stock special. And the Red River Valley Speedway is hosting night number 2 of the fourth annual Howie Schill Memorial. So that'll be another good night of racing. And then on the 18th, it will be the Nodak Speedway having the Monty Lundy Memorial. And this should be a good one, John. I believe they put in a lot of extra money in there. And they
Over
will be
3,000 to win.
Yeah, so it'll be a good one. IMCA mods will be kind of the highlight of the night, I think. And then they'll have slingshots, non-wing sprints, and the NX Legends as well. And that kind of wraps up what's going on for this week locally.
And
Yeah.
Mason, I'm gonna expand here really quick too. So, because I got an update on the Carpenter Memorial today. In Jamestown on Saturday, the Carpenter Memorial, they've raised over $12,000 for the
Wow.
payout already this year, on top of the normal purse. So now the winner purse is up to 2,037 to win, 237 to start, and then money is sprinkled throughout the whole entire field. So that's going to be a huge payout for the Midwest Modifieds on Saturday.
That's a jam-packed weekend just in the state of North Dakota alone.
Yep.
Outside the state of North Dakota, things are pretty busy as well as the seasons are winding down for some of the tracks. We have KRA Speedway with their Meet the Drivers night on Thursday the 15th. Norman County Raceway is hosting their season championship night this Thursday as well, and the Victory Lane Speedway up in Winnipeg is also running. On Friday, we have the Fiesta City Speedway running. The I-94 EMR Speedway is hosting the Bob Gerke Memorial Race on Friday. Very, very high-paying show for those Soda Modifieds. We also have Miller Central Speedway racing once again with the Tri-State Late Model Series, and also running Princeton Speedway and the Red Cedar Speedway in Menominee. Saturday the 17th, we have the Dakota State Fair Speedway racing Tri-State late models as well. So one of the few nights they get to race throughout the year. It's
I
always a
think it's their
popular.
last night of the year, right, Mason?
It is their final night of the year. Yep.
Mhm.
The I-94 Speedway is also having a double header, so they'll be racing on Saturday the 17th as well. We also have Madison Speedway, North Central Speedway, Ogilvie Raceway, and the Rice Lake Speedway on Saturday the 17th. And on the 18th, we have season championship at the Buffalo River Speedway. I believe that's only for a select few classes. Granite City Motor Park is racing as well, along with the Casino Speedway. So definitely no shortage of racing action as August hits the midpoint and the season starts to wind down. And so with that, we will display the white flag and give a shout out to our good friend Brody Carlsrud in the B1 IMCA stock car. He's been getting quite a few races in as of late over at the North Central Speedway and the Red River Valley Speedway, along with the Norman County Raceway. He has posted a couple episodes recently on his page, The Real Deal with B1, his podcast. So be sure to go over there and support it and check it out. He has a great in-depth conversation on his racing and kind of what he's dealing with in the shop and travels out to the track. And so thank you, Brody, for supporting us on the podcast. So we got wins of the week, and Becca, since she had to drop off early, she submitted to me her wins of the week.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh, is
She
it a
gets to
lengthy
go
list, Mason?
last. She's going last. Boo.
She's going last. Let's see if I'll let you go first, Jessica, but we'll see if you take any of the wins she had.
Well, I'm gonna start with kind of a North Dakotan having to do a little traveling for this win. How about one Travis Hagan picking up a Night of 1,000 Stars qualifying victory? That's a really big deal. That's kind of a bucket list win type of IMCA modified race down at Britt, Iowa at the Hancock County Speedway. Yeah, yeah, no question of that. Anyways, tip of the I had well, I've been to too many of they're all some county speedway down there. So
It's hard to keep track of them all. I
yeah.
agree.
So but tip of the cap over to Travis. That's a heck of a win. Way to represent the state in a positive manner. Um, great job, bud. Second win, I guess I should probably go with Randy Klein getting his first Jamestown Speedway Midwest Mod win. Not Randy Klein, Jared Klein. There it is.
Oh, thank you. Mason and I were looking at you like he won the Stampede before.
No, yeah. I'm tired, John. We had to wait for you.
This is true. I had to get my hairs cut.
Hair cut, singular strand. And how I don't know where I want to take my third win. Hmm.
Well, there's so many options.
There are a
There
lot of
are.
options.
Well, I'll just go with a very easy one. How about Kyle Larson going with his?
I could have predicted that one.
Uh, okay, if you were going to be like that, how about that Austin Dillon? Living up to that reputation of the number three, doing it how Dale would do it, keeping it in the family. Praise Dale, raise hail.
Gosh,
What?
that was such a silly sequence of events.
I don't understand. He won. He did what he had to do to make the playoffs. Everything he did was technically legal by NASCAR standards.
Which is the sad part.
Where do I lie, Mason? Where do I lie? Let's see. Hmm. Yeah, that's. I'm gonna leave it at that.
That sounds good. John, you want to go next?
Sure, I'll go next. So, my first, just of your face. No, my first win of the week, I am going to throw it over to one of our youngsters. I have to give it to Ty Olson. Ty had a very nice weekend in that 7 team machine for the Legends. You know, Legend car count has definitely increased here over the last couple of years. Ty's only in his basically it's gone quite large over the last couple of years, according to some people that we know. And Ty Olson is in basically his second full-time season of Legend Racing as he started racing back in 2022 in an old Dennis Everding chassis. He bought Dennis's gold car and ran that to kind of conclude the second half of the 2022 season, and has now been running this year and last year full time in the Legends. And he's been racking up the wins. He got 2 wins now in Jamestown. He picked that up on Saturday and almost picked up another win at Buffalo River on Sunday. So he's really become into his own for only being 14 years old. So congratulations to Ty over there in that number 7 Legend car. So congratulations to Ty. So that one was pretty cool to see. My second win of the week, I am going to throw it over to a completely different group of people because I think this is really cool to see from a racetrack perspective. And it happened multiple times throughout this weekend. I have to give it to the race in community as a whole from kind of like the pit road side. And what I mean by that is that when drivers come in to pit road, you don't even know them. They'll come in, they'll have a flat tire, they'll have a shock broke, they'll have something else. It is so nice to see that anybody is willing to help out. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times in pit road situations, they'll pull in with something broke on their car. And even if you're a competitor to them, a lot of times you'll see them jump up and if they're not racing, get into the line of fire over there, trying to get the damage fixed, trying to get the shock fixed, trying to get the tire fixed. And that happened a lot this weekend. So that was really cool to see across several tracks this weekend that drivers will pull in and have some damage and maybe don't have as much help as, as basically like a NASCAR driver, right? Within the pit area to get everything fixed up. But anybody in the pits, they hop on the board and they will start doing basically any type of the fix up. So great job to the racing community. I think that's the biggest thing is that we truly are kind of a big family at the end of the day, and we're willing to help out over there when somebody needs help or if they have problems. So that part's pretty cool too. So, and then my final win of the week, since Jessup stole my Austin Dillon win of the week. So joking on that. I'm completely joking on that. Um, I'm gonna give it over to I have to give it actually over to I'm gonna go to Justin Vogel, I think, with the street stock, and here's the reason why. So Justin on Friday, he ended up spinning out all by himself on lap 1 of the feature, overdrove it, completely spun out, right? Almost actually rolled the car coming out of turn number 2. Came back from 24th, was up to 7th. There was a caution and a wreck in front of him that happened between Derek Turner and Hunter Carter. Hunter got into the rear end of Derek, just a racing incident. And Justin went flying into the back straightaway wall and hit it a ton. I mean, he hit that wall a ton on the back straightaway. And everybody's like, well, there goes that car. He's done. Nope. Justin took a few minutes and got the car back on the track. He actually stopped in turn three, got the steering wheel straight on the car because I'm sure it was probably towed out just from the bent parts and pieces on the right side of the car, and finished that feature in fourth, and then came back and almost won on Saturday night. So congratulations to Justin on a pretty nice weekend overall within the Wissota Street Stocks within that 10 machine. So there's also a really cool photo that Cody Papke got of Justin going into on the heat race of night one, going into turns 3 and 4 with him, Ashley Wampler, and Spencer Johnson, and that photo is pretty sweet to see. How the drivers are driving into the turn, and you can see Justin's eyes actually in that photo, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is a pretty sick photo. I do agree with that. All right. Well, for my first win, I'll give one more shout out to William Moulter in the 87 Midwest Modified. I really didn't realize it was his first career victory, and he's been racing a lot over the last couple of years. He put in over 60 shows last year, was, I think, top 10 in national points for a long time last season. But to get his first career win in front of a couple national champions, that's pretty dang cool. So big congrats out to William Moulter in the 87. Going to go over back to the street stock tour and give a shout out to Derek Turner in the 10T. He's been struggling for a lot of the season. Been having trouble with kind of keeping like the rear end was kind of bent after a couple of wrecks early in the year. They replaced that, and it's brought his car back to life. He had a couple good finishes this weekend with a third on Friday night and a top 5 on Saturday as well. So very good weekend for the 10T of Derek Turner on the street stock tour. And then my third win of the week goes to another first-time feature winner. This one is down at the Casino Speedway, and that goes to Christian Cast in Minnesota Hornet, number 03. He's been racing quite a bit this year, too. He's been traveling around quite a bit. Been heading over to I-94, Viking Speedway, Fiesta City Speedway, and now Casino Speedway, and picking up his first career win down at the Casino Speedway in front of some stiff competition down there. Big shout out to you, Christian Cast, for getting your first career feature win, and hopefully many more to come. Shockingly, we did not take any of Becca's 3 wins.
Yes.
Oh, who did she take?
She had Shane Zabrowski as her first one. Mentioned about the mild heart attack that Shane had, and he had a very big payday on Saturday over at the ABC Raceway.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He
Yes.
won 15,000, almost 15,000 with the late model, and then I think another 20,000 with the mod, something like that.
It was a lot of money.
It was a lot. Like a lot of cars, it was a lot of money.
Yeah, he made bank on Saturday at the ABC Raceway. So that was her first win. Her second win went to Les McClenahan in the number 29 IMCA Modified. Hasn't raced a whole bunch this year, but put on a show at the S. Van Moore Speedway on Saturday. He had a really good battle with Marcus Tomlinson through lap traffic. They kind of swapped the lead a little bit, and he rallied back and retook it with a few laps to go to get his first win since 2021. So
That's pretty cool to see.
Big congrats out to Les McClenahan. And then her third win went to Brennan Waite. Second on night 1 over at Jamestown, and winner on the night 2 with the thrilling last lap pass for the win on Jaron Webstead. So those are her 3 wins of the week as well. So do we have any closing thoughts before we wrap up episode number 21? Any big plans coming up?
Yes. So let's talk about closing thoughts here really quick too. So, as Becca would say, only a couple weeks left of track points for most tracks. Every position and every point matters. So race fans, get out there and support your local dirt tracks here the next couple of weeks as we're wrapping up kind of racing season at a lot of tracks before they hit their invitational season. I'm super excited for invitational season already since we're kind of right on the cusp a bit. And looking forward to a lot of great racing over the next couple of weeks. And drivers and fans, keep your head straight on you so you can keep your car in order so you can run the invitationals at the end of the season. And then hopefully we'll have some great racing action to conclude the 2024 season. I can't believe we're already saying that, but here with only a couple more races left, and then we're into invitationals. But yeah, my plan is I'll be at my regular invitationals here throughout the remainder of the season, and I'm looking forward to those.
Yeah, I think the one who's kind of uncertain on that would be the one in the top left corner and his counterpart.
Me.
Shall be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
He's going to, you know what he's going to do? He's going to bring the baby with him. He's going to have one of those baby vests, so he'll strap the baby to him, and then he can still do his rolls at the racetrack.
Oh, by the way, I think I still have a small pair of headphones that I could lend to you.
We have,
Yes,
I think we have two sets of infant
this
headphones.
is true. I mean, Mason has his from just 2 years ago, which are also the infant headphones.
This is true.
I do have a pair that's very small and they hurt. They're so small.
Did you go to the
That's-
boutique section when you tried to do this?
No, I had to pick up a pair, I think, down in Daytona, if I have to remember correctly.
Yeah, back then you weren't growing up yet. It's fine.
Nope.
Poor
Indeed
Mason.
not.
Poor Mason.
Yep. Well, that'll do it for episode 21 of season 3. As always, be sure to like, share, and comment for the Track Packers podcast. We're on Facebook. We are social as well, and various streaming platforms as far as Spotify, Google, and Apple. Thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness, The Real Deal with B1, and Isaac Hot Sauce Sondrol. Like John said, only a couple of weeks left of the regular season before invitational season, so we hope to see you out there packing the track.